Running has not always been a sport, but more of a means of survival. Compared to many other mammals, humans are slow. We weren't built for speed, like the cheetah, and our ancestors didn't have to sprint after their food in order to kill it. But they did have to cover long distances sometimes in order to get to it or to recover it. But over time, running has evolved into the worldwide competitive sport that it is today. The evolution from necessity to sport. Messengers would run out from the battlefield to home to deliver the message about what was going on in the battle. A classic case of this was Pheidippides, who ran from the town of Marathon, Greece to Sparta in order to call for reinforcements. There are evidence of recreational races in Egypt as early as 3800 BC. In the 17th century, English nobles would bet on their footmen in races. By the 19th century, professional running became popular with betting as a background. In the 1800s, the sport of cross country came about in England. An early form of this sport was called paper chase. Paper chase was when a group of runners would run out into the woods, leave a trail of paper, and the second group of runners would follow after them later. Then there was what was called foot grind. Foot grind was the same case, but one group of runners was given a point A and a point B, and they were allowed any means to get there. There was no set course that they had to follow. Then in the late 1800s, set courses were introduced, and that is what we use now in competitive cross country. Track and field also became an amateur sport in the United States in the 1860s, and the first NCAA championships were held in 1921. Now, the evolution of running technology. Not much has appeared to have evolved in the distance running as a sport because the purpose is the same, run long distance, and the general technique hasn't changed at all. And also, the shorts are just as short, the tops are just as skimpy, but what has changed are the shoes. What started out as basically a leather sock with spikes that would shrink when exposed to water, making them virtually useless to run in, has now evolved into a modern track spike. The rubber soles were introduced in 1832, and they were quiet, so thieves took to wearing them, giving them the nickname sneakers. And the father of the modern running shoe was Adolf Dassler. Now, Adolf Dassler founded the company Adidas. His shoes became an internationally acknowledged quality shoe, and he made them out of surplus tent canvas from the war and rubber from fuel tanks. And later, he added the 3 side stripes for support in 1949. The first scientifically developed shoe was introduced by New Balance in 1962. Later, in 1979, Nike introduced the Nike Air line, which used air as cushioning. Running shoes now continue to advance scientifically in material and design and purpose. As you can see with this shoe, which was invented for barefoot running, but the question of the benefits over risk for barefoot running still are open. Now, names of runners. Any adamant distance runner will know at least one of these names. Steve Prefontaine. His nickname was Pre. He was a no-holds-barred type of runner. He lived by one of his famous sayings, "Somebody may beat me, but they're going to have to bleed to do it." He ran over 25 consecutive races in Hayward Stadium and never lost one of them. For 5 years, no American beat him, and 9 times he ran under 4 minutes in a mile. By the time he died in 1975 in a car accident, Steve Prefontaine held every American record from the distance of 2,000 meters to 10,000 meters. Roger Bannister, that's another name. Roger Bannister was a medical student in Britain, and he enjoyed running. But what was special about Roger was he became the first man to ever run a sub 4-minute mile. On May 6, 1954, Bannister ran a 3-minute 59.4 second mile. His competition at the time was another Englishman named John Landy and a guy from Kansas named Wes Santee. And another name, Bill Bowerman. Now, Bill Bowerman was a runner. He enjoyed running, but his claim to fame was coaching. He put the University of Oregon on the map as the running capital of the world. He coached 33 Olympians, 16 sub 4-minute milers, and 64 All-American runners. He was an all-star athlete in high school, and he became the head coach of U of O after returning from World War II. He pioneered what was known as the Hard Easy program. Start out hard during the beginning of the week, and by the end of the week, give your runners rest so that they could recuperate. He developed custom shoes for his athletes to increase their performance. He was obsessed with performance. And he co-founded the company called Blue Ribbon Sports, which later became Nike, with a former athlete of his, Phil Knight. One of the first shoes he created was the waffle shoe. He used his wife's waffle iron to create the outsole of it. Now, running continues to develop scientifically with the athletes themselves. We've come a long way from running and leaving paper trails and wearing leather socks with spikes on them. Previous limits have been broken and new boundaries are being set, and extremes are being taken to push the human body to its maximum capacity and to find new challenges.